Bolivar Live, Birding on Bolivar with Winnie and Wyatt is brought to you by Beachy Beatnik Boutique, located at 970 Surfside and Highway 87 in Crystal Beach, Texas. Hey everybody, I'm David with Bolivar Live and welcome to another Birding on Bolivar with Winnie and Wyatt. Today, we've actually come off the mound, I guess you can say, and down to more coastal area. And for the next couple weeks, that's where we're gonna be, is down in Port Bolivar and around the Rollover Pass. And today we're at the North Jetties. This isn't just an area for birding, it's also an area for fishing, but the great part is you can watch the birds at home anytime. Because of the Houston Audubon, we have a camera on our website at BolivarPeninsulaTexas.com. When you look under webcams, it's the last one. It says the Audubon Bolivar Flats Cam, and you can actually direct it around. I will say there's about a 30-second delay or 20-second delay, so when you go to operate it, it'll show you if anyone else is operating it, and give it some time. But we've got some preset areas in there where the birds typically hang out, and so you can always see what it's like down here through the live webcam. Winnie, you and I were talking and we looked at a picture from 1930, I think.
Yep. A
lot of changes have happened here.
Yep. Let's
talk about the history a little bit.
Okay. So when explorers found Galveston Bay, they wanted to be able to use it for ships and transportation and importing and stuff, but they found out it was pretty shallow, so they dug a channel, and they dug a channel at the mouth of the bay right out here, and they found out it kept getting silted up, and they had to dredge it out. So they wanted to build jetties to protect the mouth of the bay. In the late 1800s, they built this jetty with rocks from East Texas, right around Marble Falls.
West Texas.
Is that West Texas?
West.
Oh, okay, West Texas, around Marble Falls, and they brought the rocks down here by train, and they built a jetty on this side. This is the North Jetty, and there's another jetty on the south side. And the jetty made a lot of changes because the sediments now go out the jetty and out to the mouth out there, 5 miles out, but the sediments from the bay. But the other sediments are in the longshore current are stopped by the jetty, and that made the marsh grow out. And you'll be able to see more of that, but that made it so we have marsh, and it made it so that when we have marsh, it's where the fish and the shrimp and the all the little invertebrates grow up, which makes a lot of food.
And as we have storms like with Ike and Burl, we're actually gaining ground from about Boyd Road, I think, back this way, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right.
And the area of the marsh is steadily evolving and growing.
Right, it is. It is growing. And there are very few places on the Texas coast where it's growing.
Right, right. The birds here, what kind of typical birds are you going to find from here versus some of the other areas, and what nests here?
So we have a lot of different birds. Primarily our shorebirds and our terns. We have, over the course of a year, we have upwards of about 40 different species of shorebird that will use Bolivar Flats or kind of adjacent areas. And 10 to 15 different species of terns and gulls. They come here for the food. So part of that is the mudflats themselves have a lot of invertebrates in them that the birds are coming and eating. The marsh itself protects a lot of different types of invertebrates and food. And then also a lot of the gulls, they know where the fishermen are. So they come in and get some of the scraps of, fish that are either being processed or, people cast for bait and throw some of the bait back out. So the birds here, they'll move around a little bit. And one of the unique things about these sort of mudflat ecosystems is that because a lot of it has to do with the tide, over the course of a day, that food availability is going to be a little different, or the amount of food is going to be different. And so sometimes, like today, while we're here, the tide's out pretty far, and so there's a lot of mud flat for those birds to be feeding in. If it were a high tide, some of these birds wouldn't be able to actually get to any of that food, and so they're probably going to go elsewhere. But it's a good place to concentrate a lot of those birds.
And you have some kind of birds that'll come in when the tide's out like this, and then you get a whole different group of birds that come in when we have the higher tides typically, don't we?
Yes, and a lot of that has to do with here specifically, the way that a lot of the sediment has been deposited and the way that the marsh has grown up. As that tide comes in, it floods the area, particularly on the east side of the jetty, in sort of stages. And so that kind of pulls in a lot of food or inundates areas and makes food accessible within a short period of time. And so you'll get really large flocks of several thousand American avocets and hundreds of American white pelicans that come in, and they're sort of filtering or snapping up small suspended food in the water. When it's a low tide, we mostly have the birds like shorebirds and plovers that have longer beaks that are either probing or snapping up things on the surface.
Okay. Time of year. This is one of those areas that you don't have to do it in this, come out here in the spring or the fall. There's really birds out here year round, isn't there?
Yes.
What kind of different birds are we going to get? Right now we're in the winter, springtime, and then we're going to go into summer. What kind of birds are we going to see now versus maybe this summer?
So Bolivar Flats is one of the most important sites on our stretch of coast, and really it's one of the most important sites in all of the Texas coast for migratory shorebirds. So there's a lot of different species. As I said, we'll get upwards of 40 different species. They're all kind of coming from different places. So this is sort of like a hub. This is the IAH of shorebird migration for this part of the coast. So we have birds coming from southern South America that are stopping here on their way to the Arctic. We have birds that are coming from Central America that are actually coming here to breed, like our Wilson's plovers and our least terns. And then we have birds using, they take various routes over the course of a year. So some of the birds that we'll see in spring, at least 2 or 3 different species, they come through this section of the US in the spring, but in the fall they're going to be migrating out on the Atlantic coast.
Okay.
And similarly in the fall we get certain species more regularly that we don't get at other times.
But you wanted to know about during the summer too.
Right.
During the summer we have a lot of herons and egrets and spoonbills.
Okay.
Because they're raising chicks.
Okay.
And they bring their chicks out here and they introduce them to the areas as the gulls, and the gulls in turns do that too. So as you said, there's always birds here and it's always different.
So this is one of those areas, you know, a lot of people will go to the rookery in the spring through May to see the chicks and stuff. This is an area down here that you can really come anytime and see a good different array of birds, whether it's spring, summer, winter, or fall. You're going to see a different congregation of different birds throughout the year.
Right.
Great, great. Houston Audubon manages this.
So Houston Audubon owns 1,100 acres over there.
Okay.
Everything above mean high tide, everything that's flooded at high tide belongs to the state.
To the state, okay.
It belongs to GLO.
Okay, okay. But what kind of managing, you know, we were talking about stuff up in High Island that you have to manage up there. Is there that type of management that goes on down here on the Bolivar Flats, or does nature sort of take care of itself?
So the general systems, those tides that produce the food that the birds eat, there's not a whole lot that we can do to enhance that. But we do take a lot of active management roles in terms of cleaning up trash. So entanglement or eating of plastics by a lot of these birds is a big concern, and it kills a lot of birds every year. So we try to clean up for trash. The nesting birds that will use our beaches, we post, we not only monitor and keep track of how many nests we have and how many different pairs, but we also post signage to try to keep folks back from those nests. And then more intensive management, these marsh habitats and coastal prairie habitats really need to burn fairly frequently in order to sort of rejuvenate and keep them as marsh and
Right.
prairie and not woodlot. So those are, we don't conduct that kind of management as regularly, but that is also a part of our toolkit in terms of trying to keep it usable for a lot of the species that make it unique and productive.
I know a lot of people talk about, especially across the bay at the Anahuac Wildlife Refuge, they do typical burns this time of year, and it's always with a north wind, so the smoke blows over Bolivar and stuff. But that actually really helps the marsh rejuvenate and puts new growth in the marsh, gets rid of the thick briars and things on the ground that are going to inhabit nesting in that. And so it's a good thing when we have these burns, as long as they're a controlled burn. For more information on this area, make sure you check out the Audubon website. They've got a lot of information on all their stuff down here, whether it's here in High Island, and even I think that y'all have some stuff in Houston on the east side of Houston and stuff.
On the west side.
And on the west side. But it's really a sourceful site for information. And then you can get more information at each one of these locations too that we go to once you come down here. So anything else we need to let them know?
Nope. If you fish down here, you need a license.
Yep.
And crabbing too.
Really good crabbing and fishing here on the North Jetties. There's a bait camp here that's open from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. But make sure you check out the webcam. That way, if you can't make it down, excuse me, you can always see what's happening birding wise here at the North Jetties. And want to thank the Houston Audubon Society for working with us on the live webcam they have down here. We're going to head on out. In fact, I think next week we're going to be at the Bolivar Flats. Until next time, I'm David with Bolivar Live. Y'all have a great day, great week. Come see us. God bless, and bye-bye. Looking for the perfect blend of seaside charm and unique style? Nestled right here in the heart of Crystal Beach, Texas is Beachy Beatnik Boutique, located at 970 Surfside and Highway 87. Beachy Beatnik Boutique is your coastal fashion haven and jewelry lovers' paradise. Special thank you to Beachy Beatnik Boutique for sponsoring our Spring 2025 Bolivar Live Birding on Bolivar. Video equipment is sponsored by Crystal Beach Decor and More, located at 1959 Highway 87 in Crystal Beach, Texas, and Beachy Beatnik Boutique and Jewelry, located at 970 Surfside and Highway 87 in Crystal Beach, Texas. Thank you to these two businesses for being our 2025 video equipment sponsor for Bolivar Live.